Hi, here's another video about the Nano e-spinner. This time I'm going to talk about the tension band here. First I'll just explain what the tension band actually does for those who are new to spinning. You've got your drive band here, and that drives this flyer and bobbin assembly. With no brake band, the flyer and the bobbin will rotate at exactly the same speed and you'll be able to spin yarn. What you won't be able to do is get that yarn to wind onto the bobbin. To get the yarn to wind on, the bobbin needs to be moving at a different speed to the flyer. We achieve this by breaking the bobbin using friction and the brake band. So the flyer will be spinning at a certain speed. When you let go of the fibre to feed it in, the bobbin will slow enough for it to wind on. The Nano comes with this just fabric coated elastic as a tension band, and it works fine. It just is a little bit fiddly to adjust, and when you're spinning in scotch tension like this, you do need to adjust your tension. As your bobbin fills, you'll have more weight, so you'll need more friction to break it, so you'll need this band to be a little bit tighter. When it has the wheels facing you when you're spinning, it's a little bit fiddly to get your thumb and finger in there to grab the band and tighten it. So while this works completely fine, here are a few tips to make it slightly more user-friendly. The vast majority of these I've got from people on Rev and Facebook. It's not all stuff I've come up with myself. So I'll take this band off, and because you don't want to see me messing around stringing beads onto a bit of elastic, here's one I've made earlier. It's got a single bead on one end and several on the far end. Just slip this into the gap with the bead underneath on one side, bring it over the bobbin, and then on the other side you can choose how much tension you want nice and easily by sliding it in between two beads. So if I start off on one bead underneath, maybe it gets a little bit too not good at taking up, I can pull this out and put it to 4 beads underneath. I can easily remember and replicate these tension settings. That's fine, but it does only give you a finite amount of tension settings. I like to make my tension changes in much smaller increments. I could use smaller beads, these ones are quite large. Unfortunately, I didn't have in my stash any smaller beads that fit on this cable. So I need to find a thinner brake band. My favourite brake band material, I use it on all my wheels, is this. This is parachute cord. It's nothing special, it's nylon and it's incredibly strong. Inside it has 7 cores of this stuff. It's just thin nylon rope, moderately smooth, very strong and fairly abrasion resistant. So you could use crochet cotton, which is a similar size, but I find that tends to wear out much quicker. I can have a band made out of this on a wheel for years before it breaks. And you can do exactly the same thing with this. Put beads on the end. Because it's so much finer, you can get much smaller beads on, so you can have your incremental tension adjustments much closer together. However, this has no stretch, so you need to add a little bit of stretch to it. To do that, there's a couple of things you can try. People on Facebook have been using these teeny tiny hairbands. They're nice and stretchy, so you can just put those on one end of this, attach them on the far side, and then have your beads here on the near side. I've also seen the suggestion of a pen spring. So I dismantled a clicky pen and got one of these out. However, I don't think I like these, as they're pretty good under compression, but under tension they don't actually move very far, so I don't think that's enough springing for me. If I was going to be using that, I would use these springs, elastic bands, far more stretchy. However, I like my tension as it comes on my mini spinner over here, a little knob that you adjust, same as on my spinning wheels. I'm just used to that sort of tension, so I'm trying to replicate that here. I've got a little bit of acrylic, just a little bit of acrylic rod that I drilled a hole in, and I've got another little bit of plastic here fits snugly into there. I've drilled a little hole through that so I can get my cord through it, and I've just smoothed off the ends so it's a little bit easier to grip and twist. On the other end, I've put a bit of a spring I had lying around from somewhere. Again, this is one that's nice and stretchy under tension. It's much better than the pen spring. So I will do a similar thing with this. I will attach the spring on the far side, just shoving it through the slot. Bring it over there. For the time being, I'm just attaching this with a bit of blue tack. Eventually I will super glue it in place, but I want to spin with it for an hour or so first, so I can get the ideal position. So for now, that's just going to be held like that. I can wrap my cable around there until it looks about right, and then put that in there, and that holds nicely. And I can tighten, I'm not sure if you can see the spring from there, but I can tighten it, and you can see that spring is a little bit stretched, or I can loosen it and the spring goes back down. It's quite a terrible demonstration, but trust me, it is working, although it will fall off until I've super glued it. So this is going to be the modification I use. Little tube, bit of rod, a inside of this parachute cord for the band itself, and a little spring on the far side. Okay, I hope you find that useful.